This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 473 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. The Dressage Radio Show is the official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation. For new listeners, Reese and Phillip record new shows 3 weeks of the month, and then the fourth week we take a look back at some of the almost 500 episodes they've produced in the past. So never fear, Reese and Phillip will be back again next week with a brand new show. This week, I have assembled a collection of Total Saddle Fit tips from the past 6 years. Reese and Phillip and other professional riders have given us over 300 training and riding tips on the Dressage Radio Show. Here are just a few.
Marlene Whitaker from Custom Freestyle is going to come on and talk with us about how to design a training level freestyle. Marlene, thank you so much for coming on the show this evening.
It is my pleasure, Reese.
So we are all, I've been looking forward to your interview all day. Marlene is a wonderful choreographer and has worked with me and my family for many years. And I think she's the best. But I was so excited to have you on the show, Marlene, to talk about the new training level freestyle.
Yes, which when it became effective December 1st, a few days ago, I think 90% of our amateurs in the United States, I'm told, ride at training level, first level. So the more people that have access to this, the better. And I do have some concrete suggestions that I think will make it easier for them.
Great. Well, let's get started.
I would say the very first thing an interested rider should do is go to the USDF website. The Freestyle Committee, which I am a past member of, has put a lot of effort into giving clear directives and basic information on requirements, timing, music, choreography, scoring, and judges. There's a wealth of material there that is self-explanatory that I couldn't cover in 30 minutes. So that would be a good starting place. The next thing I recommend is that everyone have a metronome. Now, metronomes come from rather inexpensive versions to quite elaborate versions. How much you spend on the metronome is not as important as the fact that you use the same metronome throughout your entire project, because there might be some variability. So get a metronome and take a video of your horse in competition and match his walk, trot, and canter. Tap that beat into the metronome and it will give you a number. A horse's gaits fall in a specific range. Canter can be 89 beats per minute to about 102. And that is literally how many times that inside front leg strikes the ground in a minute's time. The walk might be, say, 96 to 118. And when I measure the walk, I choose to measure both front legs because it is more accurate. The trot tends to be, if you are measuring both front legs, which is, again, more accurate, tends to be about 138 to 160. So your first job, if you're new to this, is to find out what tempos go with your horse. That's so important. Once you have those numbers, if your listeners have a piece of paper, I would tell them that they should go to a website called, and I'm making sure I'll say this right, Equimusic, EQUIMUSIC.com. And that is a free online musical freestyle music database. It is quite self-explanatory, and it will give you suggestions for songs at any tempo range. If you know that your horse canters at 92 beats per minute, you insert that, and up comes a list of songs that you could choose from. This will be a great help for putting appropriate songs at a person's fingertips. Now, choosing your music is not quite as easy as saying, I like this walk, this trot, and this canter. We want your choice is to go together in a unified theme to sound like they belong together. We want you to burn some of this music and take it out to the barn and ride your horse to it to see how you like it. Pick out 3 or 4 or 5 songs in each gate and ride to it. And that's a way to start. Now, am I getting too detailed here?
No, this is
it's
perfect.
awesome.
Yeah, and the
I'm
use of that
taking
website.
notes myself.
Yeah, and to have a database of music to work with. Now, I hope that there's a lot of songs on there so that we're not having 10 freestyles with the same music.
Well, the truth is there isn't as much music available as we all wish there was. However, so some of the songs in this database may have been used. But if you have a rider going to the World Cup, I have to worry that their ride is as fresh and new as I can make it. But for our riders getting started, it's all right. If they put their music together, it's all right that maybe somebody in another state is using it too. It's all right.
Yeah.
I had an interesting experience at a World Cup class in Florida one year where I had a rider who had a particular piece of music for the canter. The rider that went in immediately after her had her ride done by someone else and coincidentally had used the same canter piece of music. Jessica Ranshausen was judging. At the end of the class, my rider was quite upset to have heard her canter music done by 2 horses. So I approached Jessica and asked her what she thought about that. And she hadn't noticed it, not because she isn't an experienced judge. Believe me, she is, and she's done freestyles and she knows. But her premise is that every cur is choreographed differently with different surrounding pieces, and 2 riders can use the same music back to back and have it be 2 totally different pieces of music. So I share that story with my riders when they get a little uptight about what if someone else is using this music. No one else has your horse. No one else has your choreography. No one else will edit it exactly the same way. So have confidence and just try to create the program that represents you. Now, finding the tempo, which I've talked about, is step 1. But just because you have picked a song in a tempo range doesn't mean it will work, because the other part of choice is the style. It is possible to have a song that is tempoed at walk sound like trot. It is possible to have a piece of music that is tempoed for trot sound like walk. That's just the rhythmic groove. That's the variation we find. So when you get to your resource and are able to find songs in a range that you know might work for you, be cognizant that it has to sound like the gait you want it to represent.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So after that, you've got your music picked out, you've ridden to it. Where does the choreography come in?
Well, fortunately, at training level, you have one big advantage, and that is you don't have so many required elements. You are required to do 20 meters of continuous free walk, 20 meters of continuous medium walk. You are required to do both left and right, a trot, 15 to 20 meter circle, no smaller. You are required to do the same at canter, 15 to 20 meter circle left and right, no smaller. In the trot, you do a serpentine with no loop smaller than 15 meters. That would be a 4-loop serpentine at the smallest. A trot, 20-meter stretching circle. Then your transitions are scored, and you can do trot, halt, trot, trot, walk, trot, trot, canter, trot. You may not do walk, canter, walk. When you read the requirements in the USDF manual, they will be very clear about what you can and cannot do. And when you choreograph your ride, be very true to what is allowed, because if you put in something that's above the level, you will be faulted for that. Because you have not so many movements to show at training level, you have plenty of time in the 5-minute limit that you're given to listen to the music, listen to the phrases, and begin to imagine, well, that sounds like a circle. At training level, it's quite doable to listen to your music and just try to ride to it. You might, and that takes some experimentation. I do find that when riders are doing this at home, the stopping and starting with a horse can be frustrating for the horse. So you might want to spend some time at your kitchen table listening to the music and trying to draw things. I can give you some rough estimates. A horse doing a 20-meter circle might trot at about 48 steps. That's 48 beats. If you trot the diagonal, that might be 16. I mean, if you canter the diagonal, it might be 16 strides. If you trot the full diagonal, it might be 32 strides. There are, if people would like to call me for some specific numbers on their choreography, I can be reached at 828-606-5907, and I'm more than happy to coach people and give them some little guidance. But if you sit at your kitchen table, kind of draw out a plan as you're listening to your music that you'd like to try, that saves your horse a lot. You want to, when the music swells, you want to do something meaningful. The interpretation of the music is a very personal thing. But I will tell you that before riders get too bent out of shape about or stress too much about their music and their choreography, it is probably most important to know that freestyles are won and lost based on the technical ride. If you have met the requirements and you ride a clean and accurate test, the best technical ride will nearly always win the freestyle. So sometimes I'd encourage riders to spend your money on lessons. Spend your money on the most able horse you're able to have and get the best help you can from a professional. Because in truth, especially at training level, the best moving horse with the cleanest technical ride will win the cur. And that should give a lot of encouragement to our riders and encourage them to put their efforts where it will most pay off and let the music and the choreography be a little bit of fun at training level.
And for the rest of that interview with Marlene, visit dressageradio.com, episode 184. More tips coming right up. Hi, Glenn the Geek here. Choose Kentucky Performance Product Supplements because the horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. This week, I want to speak with you about Elevate Maintenance Powder. Horses consuming limited grass due to a busy competition schedule or because of diet restrictions may not be getting enough natural vitamin E. Horses in rigorous training, seniors, broodmares, and stallions often require additional levels of vitamin E to meet their needs. When you need a supplement with natural vitamin E, choose Elevate Maintenance Powder. Affordable, effective, and research proven, Elevate Maintenance Powder's vitamin E is nature's most powerful antioxidant, protecting your horse on the cellular level. Elevate Maintenance Powder supports the strong immune system and healthy muscle function necessary for top performance. It's affordable and easy to feed, and you can learn more about this and all their products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Next up, we have a trainer tip from Nicholas Fife, a Australian dressage rider based out of Wellington and also Canada.
Well, Nicholas, we're so happy to have you on the show this evening and really looking forward to hearing your perspective on this week's trainer's tip about how you hold a balanced position. Can you get us started?
Thanks for having me on, guys. This is what I want to talk about this evening. I think everyone's already heard about why it is really important to have a balanced position as a rider, and we all know that it really affects how effective our aids are as a rider. I just wanted to talk about how I actually maintain an effective position myself. I think I'm at a little bit of an advantage because I get a lot of practice and I ride about 10 horses every day. So I certainly get enough time in the saddle. And that's something that a lot of the adult amateur riders find harder because they may be only riding one horse a day. So it is really important that they maximize their time in the saddle when they're on that one horse. So first of all, I get a lot of practice. But I was actually a competitive gymnast when I was younger, so I'm fairly aware of my own body, and I know when it's right, and I certainly know when it's wrong. So when I'm feeling unbalanced in the saddle, or I feel some asymmetries, or something's just not quite in alignment, then I try and work it out in the gym. And I spend a fair bit of time doing yoga, not as much as I would really like to when it gets really busy in the season right now, but I try and do a couple of sessions each week. And if I feel like I can't fix it myself in the yoga studio, I take advantage of the fact that we have a in-house Pilates instructor at Still Point Farm where I'm based. We're really lucky, and she stretches me and pulls me and puts me back into position, and that seems to really help me find my position back to its balance and center of gravity.
Excellent. Do you have any more ideas maybe while you're riding? What can you do to kind of become body aware or a little stronger in places where you need to be?
Yeah, I constantly check. I constantly analyze how I'm sitting. And I always, when I'm teaching and when I'm riding, I like to think about what it would look like if someone took a bird's eye view photograph from the rider from above. And I always like to think that I would be perfectly centered over the horse, that I have a seat bone either side of the horse's spine, that my spine is positioned perfectly vertically in line with the horse. And I always try to think of what the view would look like from above so that everything is in perfect symmetry. And I just constantly remind myself to think how it feels to the horse with the way we sit on them, and how we can sit in a way that we make it easier for the horse to travel. I have to remind myself about my position every day. I worked very hard to get a nice position, but it doesn't just stay like that. I constantly have to work on it all the time.
Well, and I love that comment because I think it's a struggle for all riders. You know, we all work every day very, very hard on our position. And I liked how you said that you did a lot of work in the gym and yoga and Pilates. How do you make that a priority in your schedule? Because you have such a busy schedule.
That's a really good question, and it's something that I find very hard to do. It's easier for me when I'm in Wellington than when I'm based in Canada for the summer, because when I'm in Wellington, everything's much closer and concentrated here in Florida, so it's easier to get to the gym because it's much closer to home. And also, I find if I just go to the general yoga classes at the gym, and if I decide that if I'm going to book an appointment with my Pilates instructor, I feel if I'm investing some money into it, I know I'll be there and I know I'll put all of my energy into it. And that's how I really get committed to it. Once you invest some money into something, then it makes you work that little bit harder at it.
Yeah. It's harder to cancel when you're going to lose that little bit of money or whatever. I think that's important. No, I think exactly. the three main areas, like I think getting instruction, the use of mirrors when you can use them, and maybe some videotaping is three ways to really work on your position. Do you guys have anything to add to that? Maybe Nicholas, you can talk, and then Reese.
Yeah, I utilize all of those things, but I just think that eyes on the ground are really important. I don't think I ever ride unsupervised. I certainly would never ride with anyone on the farm, just purely out of a safety aspect. But I very rarely ride a horse without someone watching me. And I know I'm a professional and I do this for a living, but I still think that it's that important that I ride with supervision every day so that I do stay on track and that I do maintain a clear system in my training.
Yeah, I think I agree. Sometimes when I'm in Kentucky, I don't, and I'm not able to have instruction all the time. But I'm lucky. My sister, we've talked about her on the show before, has ridden Grand Prix. So if I really feel like I've got something not going well, I'll call her out, or my mom. I also have my assistant trainer who can come out and say, oh yeah, hey, it looks a little this way. So I think utilizing the people that are around you for the riders that can't get instruction, obviously that's the best, but for sure having people around that are watching and are taking care of your position. I think every lesson I teach, try to give each of my students a little tidbit on their position. Say, okay, you need to move here, you need to be there. So I think just also us all paying attention to the detail of the position is critical as well.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think you have to have a world-class trainer all the time, but just a riding buddy to say, look, you're really leaning to the left, or, just a reminder, sit up, because I think we can all kind of get into riding, trying to figure out the horse so much, or just trying to make the horse have, the perfect shoulder in or the perfect half pass, that we don't realize we're leaning over to the side or something like that.
Yeah.
I agree. I've spent much time when I was based in Australia riding on my own. And I think sometimes there is a benefit in that, because it gives you confidence to make a mistake and work something out on your own, and you can really figure out this problem on your own because there's no one else there to help you. So there is a benefit in riding on your own, and I just think it's important that you don't do it for extended periods of time. But as you said, even if it's just a riding buddy watching, I think just the fact that you have someone there overseeing your riding is going to make you ride that little bit better, put in a little bit more effort, and go the extra mile to improve.
Oh, absolutely. And then just like you said, the extra effort. I think I always tease my students that, I'll give them a lesson and they're like, wow, I just can't live without you. And I tease them that it's job security, but it's very true. I think we all have to focus on that. And as students, and Nicholas, how often in an ideal world, how often would you do, your yoga and your Pilates and your different type of exercises?
In an ideal world, I would work out at the gym 4 times a week, and 2 of those sessions would be yoga sessions. The other sessions I do, honestly, are just weight training, and that, to be honest, is not so. For me, it's not so positive for my riding. I just like to look good at the beach with my shirt off. But,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I like the honesty.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's very good for your core strength. I would like to do yoga at least twice a week. But the other thing that's really important for me to sit really well is that I'm not exhausted. When I'm really tired, I find it really hard to maintain a great position, and I really find that I need one day in the week where I don't ride a horse, where I really have time for my body to relax and to rest. And then normally that's a Monday when I'm lucky, and then on Tuesday, I get back on the horse and I'm feeling good to go. But for me, it's very important to get enough rest.
Oh, I second that. I also need a day for my body and my mind to not sit on my horses all the time. So, but Nicholas, this was such great insight on your riding and how you take care of your body to be the best rider that you can be. How can we find you on the internet?
You can go to my website. It's www.nicholasfifedressage.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Nicholas J. Fife, or follow me on Twitter, Nicholas Fife.
Do you want to give us the spelling of your last name there, Nicholas? Just in case.
F-Y-F-F-E. That's F for Foxtrot, Y-F-F for Foxtrot, E.
Founded in 1973, the United States Dressage Federation has become the largest organization to represent a single Olympic equestrian discipline. At nearly 30,000 members strong, USDF is your connection to dressage education, competition, and achievement. Visit usdf.org to learn more about USDF education, competition and award programs, and to shop our online store. Again, that's usdf.org, your online destination for dressage.
Well, we are very happy to have a friend of ours, Kelly McGinn, on the radio show this evening. Kelly, you are our trainer tip of the week. Can you get started on the tip you're giving all of us?
Sure. I've come up with an easy way to explain and to help the rider kind of break down the trot a little bit. And I think sometimes it can be daunting when a rider thinks of, I need to collect the horse or I need to engage the horse. So I've come up with an easy way to describe it to my students that really makes it very simple. And I call it gear work, and this is not really, kind of a new thing in dressage, but I've made it really simple. What I try to think about is like third gear is like your basic working trot. You're forward, you feel like your horse is, even in both reins, and, this is just your working trot. And then we have the lower gears that are basically like first and second gear. And would think first gear kind of being that trot that you would have right before you walked. And then second gear is that trot that's maybe a little bit in between first and third gear. And then we have fourth and fifth gear, which is fourth gear is more sort of going towards your medium trot. Fifth gear is towards extended trot. So for me, this is a really easy way in a lesson to kind of teach the rider and to show the rider, okay, I want you to do this movement in fourth gear, or I want you to do this movement in, second gear. And one of the most important things when the rider is doing the lower gears is to make sure that they have a couple of things going on as they do this. For example, if the rider is going to put the horse into first gear, what this does is this allows the rider to feel that they are riding and controlling the steps of the hind legs. And this is, kind of an important step for the rider to make sure that they feel the steps of the hind legs and that they can make sure that the energy belongs to them. In other words, that the horse just doesn't stop when they feel the rider start to ride a transition. This also is a great exercise to get the horse to relax and swing in the back a little bit. But when the rider is doing these lower gears, it's important that they keep the horse straight underneath them and not let the horse, kind of step left or right. And it's also important that the rider make sure that the horse is soft in the hand. We want to make sure that the horse is on the seat and that the rider is not holding the horse into the lower gear. All of these things combined really make sure that the horse, gets relaxed and uses the rhythm. You really want to use the rhythm to make sure that the horse, swings a little bit. And I want to be clear and make sure that this is not, an engaging exercise. This is not collecting the horse. And this makes it really easy for the rider, not thinking like, oh my gosh, I've got to, make these hind legs quicker. I've got to make the horse, more active and engaged. I mean, really, if you break it down and just say, I'm just working on relaxation here and making sure that the horse is soft in my hand. And then the next piece of this is, once the horse relaxes and the rider feels that the rhythm is there, then the rider can leave that gear and then maybe go to the higher gear. You might leave first gear and then go to third gear and then maybe come back to second gear, and when you are going in and out of these gears, you're making sure that the relaxation and the softness that you achieved in that gear is still there. And this makes it just really, really easy. And, for example, if you have a horse that wants to kind of suck back and be a little bit lazy all the time, the common thought is, okay, I'm just going to, give a kick and put my leg on and drive the horse forward. And sometimes this is not the best way. It makes the horse then more tight in the back. So, it's a really great exercise then if we have, a lazy horse. We go to the lower gear, and make sure that the horse does not stop. The rider is in control of the steps of the hind legs and in control of the energy. And then you might leave that lower gear, and kind of leave it with purpose and then push the horse then up to fourth gear. And then come back to third gear and then go back to fourth gear. So this is a really simple, easy way for the rider just to think about it and say, I don't have to engage my horse. It's not that. It's I'm just going from one gear to the next. But I'm also making sure that while I do this, I maintain relaxation, I maintain swing in the back, and this makes it really, really nice and easy for the rider. It doesn't become a daunting task to think I have to, engage the horse. This also is a really great aid to teach the rider to ride the hind legs, to keep keep the rhythm of the hind legs. The rider needs to understand that they always are in control of where the hind legs are and to make hind legs step and make the hind legs, work for us, basically. It's also a wonderful way for the rider to control energy and making sure that the horse is on the seat and not on the hand. It just makes everything a little bit more simple, and it also helps the horse to be more adjustable.
No, I think that's a great way to think about, riding a horse in the trot. I think we all, as riders, we think we need to be able to extend, we need to be able to come back, but we don't ever think about that there's a huge adjustability in our range of trot, or should be. And if there's not a huge range in our trot, that's something that we need to work on getting. And that's what this exercise does. So I think it's a brilliant exercise and a great way to visualize that there are gears and that you should be able to step it up and you should be able to shift down, and you maybe need to shift to third gear from first gear. So I think that's a brilliant way to explain it. So Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the show this evening. How can we find you on the internet?
Well, I have a Facebook page for my business, and it's Kelly McGinn Dressage, and you can go on there and like it. And I try to update it as much as I can, and I put pictures and that sort of thing. And you can contact me through that. And then I also have, just a Facebook page for myself. And I would love to hear from people. And if anybody ever has any comments or questions, I, absolutely love what I do, and I enjoy talking to people and meeting new people. So please contact me. I would love to talk to you.
Well, it is my pleasure to introduce Marco Bernal, from a team rider from Colombia, and he also just rode in the Nations Cup. And I'm so glad that, Marco, you were able to come on this evening to answer our listener question. Thanks for coming on.
I wondered if you could share your favorite exercises for teaching horses how to start collection at the second or third level stage in training.
Okay, I would say, obviously, according to the talent and the ability of the horse, but I would suggest, and that's the way I normally do, I start on the walk using some turn on the haunches to make sure the horse is free at the shoulders and he's going to be able to sit under and start to understand what is the idea. In the trot work, I normally go for the shoulder in, first the shoulder forward, then shoulder in, circle, and then once I have the horse in balance, I use the transition trot walk and back to the trot. It really helps the horses to get the strength and to learn how to collect. Now, on the canter, normally I start with the county canter, and I use the county canter on the green horses to help them to get the balance and start to work on the collection. Once the horses are, let's say, a little bit more familiar with the idea, then you can use some 10-meter circles, both directions, and then once the horse is balanced and really comfortable doing that, you can use some kind of working period, big one, to start to collect the horses. And the combination of the three of them, the three different gaits, it will help the horse to understand what we want.
Oh, I think those are great exercises, Marco. So can you take us back to the trot? So let's say I have a second level horse and he's pretty weak, and I'm having trouble with, just introducing shoulder in or shoulder four. What are some things that we can use to help that horse get the strength for those exercises?
Okay, if we go one step back, we will use the circle, the 10-meter circle, and make sure the horse is really getting the flexion and the balance to be able to maintain the flexion and the balance on the shoulder in. Another exercise and a combination that really helps me a lot is once I have the shoulder in, let's say, steady and consistent on the horses, I start to use the rambers. It's a very, very good exercise for the horses to understand how to go through the whole body and stay collected.
Oh, that's a great one. And what about travers? Do you use travers at all kind of in this stage?
Yes. I mean, it is in between. Actually, when you start with the shoulder in, circle travers, then shoulder in, circle rambers, all this combination gives the horse a great ability and flexibility to really move easier and, like I said, do it with a less amount of effort.
Oh, I think that's great. And so, Marco, tell us length of time. A lot of times our listeners say, okay, well, how long or how many repetitions of these exercises should I do? What are some tips for gauging how much we should do?
Okay, like I said, I have, and this is my own experience, I have some horses, they really give me a better feeling and sooner working or start to work the collection on the canter, some of them on the trot. Is not really one specific order. You know, some horses, I spend more time walking in the beginning and making sure the horse is taking the legs and is reacting quicker from behind. And then it's very difficult to say how long. It will depend. Every horse is different. Normally, I try to start walk, do the exercise on the walk, then I go and try to do the trot. Some horses, they prefer, and I see a big, let's say, they get it sooner and quicker when I go from the walk to the canter exercise, and then at the end I will do the trot. Once I have more impulsion and better forward tendency, then I can go back to the trot. But I would say, you know, in general, I don't spend more than 15, 20 minutes doing those. I mean, counting the warming up and then the cool off. I mean, normally I don't ask and work on this type of exercise that extent.
That makes sense. And I think that's right. Exactly what you have to work on is always making sure that you are listening to what your horse has to say, especially this is a hard time for horses as they have to learn a lot and carry a lot. So Marco, you did a great job talking about the canter, and you talked about counter canter for learning collection at second and third level. What are some counter canter figures or exercises that you do?
You can start with the simple one, which is the regular, you know, coming out of the corner, take a big diagonal that the horse is really able to keep and maintain the balance, and then go the whole arena. Then you can go for some 20-meter circles and count a canter, then the serpentine through loops, you know, and like I said, according the reaction and how quick the horses get it, then you can go for this exercise that I said is like you make a circle, almost no flexion, you know, you keep sure that the shoulders are coming first, and then the horses will develop the capacity of carrying itself, and then you can use a smaller circle, you know, that's, like I said, depending how quick the horse and how strong the horse it is.
Oh, and I love that. And you also talked about the working pirouette, which I think a lot of people are nervous to start that, you know, at that level. But I agree with you. I think that's one of those exercises that takes a really long time for a horse to develop. Can you talk a little bit more sort of working pirouette kind of on that general topic?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the working pirouette, and actually you don't go straight to the working pirouette. You try a few strides on the big circle, let's say, not the 20-meter circle, 15 or 18-meter circle. You start to make some strides and check how long your horse is able to keep the degree of collection that you are asking for, and then little by little you increase every time more and more, and at some point you're going to be able to have like a big circle on a nice, let's say, position for a period, but you're not really asking for this, obviously, this degree of collection, but it will develop every time. The horse will recognize what you're asking for, and they will, let's say, feel more comfortable doing it, and obviously they develop the strength and the coordination to keep it for longer, and the more they learn, then you can ask for a little bit more. But like I said, it's a very slow process, and I normally, the most important thing, like you said before, is to be able to listen to the horse and recognize exactly the point when the horse is working too hard, to be able to keep the horse happy and motivated to do it again and again.
And Marco, tell us, if we were to look you up online, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
Marco Bernal Dressage International. That's my website, and you can go in www.marcobernaldressageinternational.com, and then you can have the information.
Great. Well, we can't wait to have you on another time, Marco. Thank you.
This tip was brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, the shoulder relief girth that Reese and Philip both love. And here's why.
The saddle fit solution you have been waiting for is finally here. TotalSaddleFit.com is proud to introduce the shoulder relief girth. This strategically shaped girth actually moves the girth line of your saddle back over 1 inch, thereby freeing your horse's shoulders from the saddle. Traditional girths pull saddles up against a horse's shoulders and often over the top of the shoulders. The shoulder relief girth's recessed ends allow for the billets to buckle into the girth farther back to give your horse unparalleled freedom of motion. We are so certain that your saddle will fit better and your horse will be more comfortable that for a limited time we are offering a 30-day, 110% money-back guarantee. If you are not totally satisfied with your shoulder relief girth, send it back for a full refund plus 10% of the purchase price. Don't wait. Order now for the best saddle fit solution available.
At TotalSaddleFit.com. Visit TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, it is truly an honor to introduce my mentor, Conrad Schumacher, who has been national team coach for Germany, for Holland, for Great Britain. And he was also the Young Rider team coach. And we started working together now 20 years ago. And he's been extremely influential in my career. So I hope everyone enjoys the Master of Dressage. Well, it is an honor this evening to have my mentor and teacher, Conrad Schumacher, here with us this evening. Conrad, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, we've had a very wonderful weekend of clinics here at Maple Crest Farm, and we even have a very unusual setup. You are sitting in the indoor, and I'm in my apartment, and so we're in the same location, but not quite sitting together this evening. But one of the questions, and I really had to think about what to ask you because you are such an amazing teacher, is you always say to riders, and when you give a clinic, that you are making a rider and not making a horse. Can you kind of start the conversation about what you mean by saying that?
Well, I made the experience in the dressage business that the horses develop only really well when the rider is good. Actually, riders are making the horses. And that is one reason. The other reason is I've trained a lot of young riders in my life. It's more than 3,500 all over the world, and maybe like 2,000 in America. And when you train young riders, you have to train the rider. You have to make them understand the giving of the aids and how things are working together. And so this is my background, and this is my experience, and because of that, I train riders primarily, and the riders later, they make then the horses good, and the horses become successful.
This is so true. I mean, I started riding with you, oh goodness, it's about 20 years ago. So I have personally had several horses that we've worked together. And it's very true as we go through the scale and the scale of training and learning, every horse is different. And you have to be able to change to different horses. So we also talk a lot about feel and learning about feel and how we feel and teach and learn what feel is. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I mean, the difficulty in teaching a rider is that you have to teach technical, the giving of the aids. This is relatively easy because you can describe it by words. And it's also logical, and someone who is intelligent understands that right away. But then you have to teach the feel, because the giving of the aids has also two aspects. It's not only the technical aspect, it has the aspect of the timing of the aids. And the timing of the aids cannot be done with the brain. It can be done only when you have learned to feel. Now, when you talk about feel, that doesn't help the rider because words don't cover that really. So my way of teaching is I produce together with the rider and the horse situations where the feel will come up. And then I tell the rider in that moment, that's it. And then I do hope that the riders remember. And I do that often, and then I do it in variations, and after a while, the riders will learn to feel. And then we have the prerequisite of giving the aids in a good way.
So tell us, when you start talking about the technical aspect, and let's talk a little bit, let's say about picking up the canter, because we saw that a lot, or I saw that a lot today as we went through. We had young horses to Grand Prix horses, and we had the young ones who had to learn to pick up the canter by going through the neck. And when you start talking about giving the aids in that moment, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when you want to proceed from a trot, for example, with the young horse into the canter, so technically it is the weight of the rider must be on the inside seat bone more than on the outside seat bone. That has to do with the balance, and you can achieve that easily by pushing your inside leg a little bit further down. And then the horse must have a nice flex to the inside that is technically done with your inside hand. You turn the wrist carefully to the inside, and the outside rein stands passive at the neck. And then your inside leg switches down because of the seat position is assisted by the outside leg, which is a little bit behind the girth. And then you have the right position of rider and horse, and then you can close the legs, and this will make the horse cantering. But it might be that a young horse which has never done that before has to learn that and understand that. That may take a little while, but then the horse has understood, and then it goes. So this is technically described relatively easily. But the moment when you actually ask for this canter, that would be then the moment where you feel that the horse is ready for it. And this is now the second part to feel.
Right, exactly. And that's the tough part. And today we worked a lot also on giving in the neck. And we started in the halt. And we would take this all the way to the canter transition or to piaffe if appropriate for the horse. So talk to us a little bit about when you're dealing with neck position in the halt, for example. How do you feel with your seat and your legs to get the horse round or keep the horse round that way?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is what I do a lot with all the riders and the horses, to do it in the halt. With giving the horse a good neck position, because in the halt, the horse as well as the rider, they have nothing to do but concentrate just on that neck. They don't move, so they have a great possibility to develop the feel, both of them. The horse feels good when the neck is well rounded, and the rider feels this as well, and then you can do exercise in the halt, a slight flex to the left, a slight flex to the right. Then you can give one side from your wrist and take the other side, or you keep both hands steady and wait until the horse has given the neck and so on. You can make the crest of neck flip over to the left or flip over to the right, depending on what you want to do. And when you have that done, then there's so much understanding between horse and rider that later when you go for the walk and for the trot and for the canter, you save a lot of time when you exercise it like that. And you also, when you have the neck well rounded in the halt, you can let the horse stretch down, and the horse will try to seek the deep outline, and then you retake the rein. So you can train in the halt not only the neck positions and the flex, you also can train the stretching and the retaking of the rein. And when the rider can do that, then he rides way better because he's always able to reward the horse in the right moment. The reward comes by a lightening of the contact or the touching.
Yeah, and it works, ladies and gentlemen. I will tell you, I worked a lot on that today on the young horses especially, and it was very, very helpful. Another exercise, Herr Schumacher, if we could talk about, you did a great exercise also to help with the neck, the turn on the forehand. You did that with all the riders almost. Can you talk to us a little bit about the aids for the turn on the forehand, but also the feeling of the neck and the turn on the forehand?
Yes, when you turn on the forehand, and you do that with the flexed neck to the inside, and then you use the inside leg to turn the horse together with the inside hand, but without using the inside hand much. The inside hand is only flexing the horse. Then you have a good influence on the horse's spine. This slow turning loosens the spine, and because of that, the horse becomes soft in the neck. And this is very helpful to teach that to a rider, because always when the rider is on the way with the horse and the horse gets a little bit strong in the hand because it's young, or it gets a little bit excited because of environmental issues, then you can go back to this horse, turn the horse off the forehand, and you have it soft again. This is why we do that. And that is an old exercise which was already done hundreds of years ago in the classical riding in Europe.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many horses, we saw some upper level horses today that weren't so comfortable with that movement. And it's something that you use a lot, the turn on the forehand. And you did also a really neat exercise that incorporated leg yields today and the turn on the forehand down the wall. Can you explain that exercise? Because that was sort of the next step in this softening of the neck and the feeling for the riders.
Well, basically, the turn on the forehand and the leg yield has the same idea. We drive the horse with the inside leg to the outside leg and to the outside rein. When you do it in the halt on the turn on the forehand, it is comparatively easy. And the next step is when you go down the long side and you flex the horse to one side and you drive it, for example, from the right side to the left side, you finish that movement down the long side of the arena with a turn on the forehand. You go from this movement into the turn on the forehand. This is more complicated because the horse is moving, but when the horse has learned it in the halt, then will do it easily. And then you have a great tool for using this exercise also. Maybe you're on the showground and you warm up your horse, you can do it there. And it will help tremendously to get hold of the horse in a good way. On a showground, normally a turn on the forehand with a halt is difficult to do because in the warming up, you cannot just only halt. The other riders are riding around you and the horse get nervous. But this turn on the forehand, which comes from a walk, can be practiced almost everywhere. So this is then the next step and will be as successful like everything which is done properly, riding from the inside to the outside so carefully that the horse gets more contact on the outside rein.
Can you just explain to us what you mean by riding from the inside to the outside for our listeners? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, of course, not that is so real visible in a way that the horse is pushed to the inside leg hard to the outside. It is more a very skillful, soft riding with the inside leg a little bit to the outside, but the outside leg is in a guarding position. It is then a little bit behind the girth and holds the horse there without pressure. And this little bit of driving from inside to outside makes the horse round and soft on this inside. And that is particularly important for all the classical movements. You have to have the horses soft on the inside that you can ride half pulse or canter pirouettes or whatever it is. And that is practiced already with these simple movements on the lower level. The horses get the understanding for that. But again, it is almost not visible. It is done very, very carefully.
Yeah, and it's truly amazing to watch you do it, because when you do it, and I certainly try to teach all my students, but when I watch you do it, it's amazing to see how the horses become much more rideable and much more obedient through this work and much more relaxed, because they understand the concept that you're looking for, and it's truly amazing to see them transform.
Sorry, but it's also
no, go,
very
please.
fun. Yeah, in the moment we have a lot of rain here, and I almost cannot hear you. It is really, the rain is very, very strong.
I know, I can hear it. Glenn can hear it too. We're good though. Don't worry, we're fine. I can hear you.
Okay, but let me say something in addition. When you do this careful riding from inside to outside, as I described it, that has one very important effect in the horses. You become a close contact with your body to the horse's body, and this makes horses particularly happy. Horses enjoy very much this contact of a soft leg and a soft hand, and that makes them relax very well and listening to the rider. A happy horse is always listening to the rider. And that is another reason why I like to do that with this riding from inside to outside, to enhance the contact what we need to have the horses really happy.
Yeah, and you're just a master at making horses happy, and riders. All the smiles today were pretty cool to watch. And for our last question here, Schumacher, we talk a lot about education and educating riders and horses. And can you talk a little bit about the importance of education, and also some ways that you feel like Americans can get education?
Well, education is extremely important for classical riding. The riders have not only to learn that what we were talking about, the technical part and the field part. It is also, of course, the mental fitness has to be educated. Riders have to have patience. They have to be eager to do it. They have to be determined, but on the other side, they always have to be humble and understand that the mistakes which come about are never done by the horse on purpose. A horse will never do a mistake on purpose. It cannot do it because the horse is not logical oriented. It reacts on aids and it reacts on its instincts. So when the rider is not educated in that way, they will not be fair to the horse. They won't do justice to the horse. And that is why this education is extremely important. And in Germany, we educate our riders at least 3 to 5 years in order to have later good riders who understand the sport, who understand themselves, and who understand also the instincts of the horses. And when we do not do that, then we will never get really good riders. And good riders are essential for making a good team. And in America, I know that there are many attempts to school the riders well, but I think personally that a lot of things could be done in addition. to that what is done already. And I do hope that that will come about now in future in America more. America must just understand that the dressage riding is different from jumping or eventing. In jumping and eventing, you can produce more or less a little bit your own style. In the dressage, you also have to ride on your own, but the knowledge and the way of producing the horses has to be done within a system. And this system is hard to understand when you don't have the education.
Right. It is. And, education is available. And, for example, you travel through the country and it's very affordable to come and audit your clinics. And it's really a wonderful day of education. So, Herr Schumacher, I need to feed you dinner. You've been working all day, and I appreciate your time to talk with us on the Dressage Radio Show. And I hope you'll come back another time.
Well, as always, everybody, we love your email and Facebook shout outs, and we've gotten a lot of fun calls and emails from everybody about our book club. When two spines align, don't forget.
Like it's your idea. Yeah, that's great.
Don't forget our book club. We're going to review our book the first week in July. So it's coming up. I am not going to lie, Phil, I'm taking mine. I'm heading on a little vacation. So I'm going to take mine with me and on the plane and read a little bit and be ready to rock and roll. So don't forget our book club, Two Spines Align. There's more info on our Facebook page and also on the Dressage Radio page. So we hope you enjoy it, and you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com. My email is reese@horseradionetwork.com. And I also have a new Instagram page for Maple Crest Farm. So go check it out.
Oh, man.
I know.
Well, the best way to find me is usually on Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
And as always, keep your heels down and your shoulders back.